Mom Who Knows Nada. My name is Brianna. This is the Mama Knows Nada podcast. We're talking to Hillary about her mom life and trying to rectify trauma through fitness. So it's going to be a very dynamic podcast, I think. Hillary, welcome. Thank you so much for talking to us about your experience and some of the things that you've discovered through your own journey.
Thank you for having
being
me.
here.
Like, it's an honor. Like, I'm so excited. And it's been a journey.
That's my pleasure.
For sure, I could say that.
Well, let's talk about your road to motherhood. How did you discover you were going to be a mom?
Story. So back in like November 2019, I was living in California. I'm from California, and I was in a very toxic relationship. Got out of it in November, ironically, and I decided that I was moving across country to Tennessee. And because I made that decision and everything, I decided to have a one-night stand with someone before I left. And so then I was like, cool, I'm never going to see or speak to you again. I don't care. Like, I'm leaving. And on the drive here, because we drove here with my mom and my sister, my niece, we drove across country, and they almost left me in Oklahoma because I was just psycho. And I remember very vividly like the anger that I was feeling, and I couldn't explain it. And so I was just like, no, it's because I was in a toxic relationship, and I'm, it's like detoxing, you go through all that. And
right.
So then a few days later, I got to Tennessee on Friday the 13th. No. Friday the 13th, and Monday, I'm a huge football fan, huge into sports, and I'm a huge Saints fan. So Monday was Monday Night Football, and Drew Brees is like my favorite quarterback. And I cried because they took away one of his touchdowns, and I'm screaming at the TV because it was like a record-breaking touchdown. And it was only halftime that they took it away at halftime. And he, on average, is about 2, possibly 3 touchdowns per half. So it's like, why am I getting upset? I know he's going to break the record. Like, that's just a given. So my mom and sister-in-law decided, we're going to get you a pregnancy test. And I'm like, okay, I might be pregnant, but I highly doubt it. And off the bat, it came back positive. So December 17th, 2019, that's how I found out I was pregnant.
Yeah, you're watching football.
Yes, I was like, my brother was like, you sound like Batman right now, you're so pissed off. And I was like, okay, maybe something's wrong. Like, I'm competitive, but not on that level. So found out I was pregnant, and I knew I had an idea that which one was the dad, because obviously I was in a relationship, ended the relationship pretty early, and then in early November, and then Black Friday was actually the night she was conceived. And oh yeah,
I have a friend who has a very similar story.
At least actually. I'm not the only one. So my brother and his wife had their daughter out here, so I was set up with a really phenomenal OBG, and I said to him, like, there's 2 options. Like, it's either this guy or this guy. And he goes, well, did you have your period in the middle of that? And I said, yes. And he goes, then it's not the first guy, it's the second guy. I will tell you from my professional experience, it's the second guy. And I was like, thank God, because I don't want it to be the first guy. I prefer the second guy any day. And so then I called him, and I let him know, hey, bro, I'm pregnant. Like, just to let you know. And he goes, okay, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't believe in abortion, so I'm keeping the baby. Whether you're going to be there or not, I don't care. I'm keeping it. And so then he was just like, okay. So my first trimester was like off and on of emotions, of course. I ended up with COVID in my first trimester, which was fun.
Jeez.
That was
oh my gosh.
Cool. One second. My mom's here, so I'm going to go into a quiet room without her. Oh my gosh, she's here. I'm going to go into my little setup that I have of a little mini podcast room. Okay. So then I find out, I'm at work, I find out from a third party that my baby's dad had a girlfriend who was 5 months pregnant the night my daughter was conceived. So of course I call him out on
Mm.
it, like, hey bro, what's the deal about this?
Wow.
And oh, I know.
Buddy.
Nick
It's like
Cannon's
Nick
doing it all
Cannon
for
or
me, so
something. Just
like, let's be real.
yeah. I
Oh
mean, good.
yeah.
I mean, I think he
Oh
can
yeah,
afford it.
9 kids.
So
Yeah,
good for him.
good.
Good for
So
him.
I was like, "What's the deal?" And he goes, "I'll talk to you tomorrow." The hell? You're not gonna put me on pause. I'm pregnant. My hormones are out of whack. You're gonna put me on pause for tomorrow. And then so he started calling me the next day, and I started ignoring him. I'm like, I'm not gonna play your game. Like, you don't. I'm the one carrying the child. I don't need you. So then that was a bit of a roller coaster. Second trimester, him and I were on good terms. And then third trimester hit, he tells his girlfriend that he cheated on her and I'm pregnant with his kid. So the whole time she's like fighting with him, and I mean,
Ooh.
I would fight with him too if I was a girlfriend. I'd be like, I was pregnant, you cheated on me. And then not only did you cheat on me, but she's pregnant too. Are you kidding me? So right.
Yeah. That's tough.
Right.
That's
So
a
I'm
tough
getting upset
situation
with
all
her about
around.
it. Like, I totally get it. I'd be doing the same thing. And it got to the point that she had him call me and then took the phone from him and was like, so you're pregnant? I'm like, yes, I'm pregnant. And she's like, it's his kid. Are you sure? I was like, yes, I'm sure. Basically calling me a slut without calling me a slut. And I was like, okay, like, I get it. I'm not mad at you. I get it. And she goes, I want to do a paternity test. I said, that's fine. You can come out here. My daughter will be here in August, so you can show up then. And she's like, no, I want an in vitro one. I said, nobody's sticking a needle in my belly to get my daughter's DNA, especially my third trimester. My body doesn't need that stress. My baby doesn't need that stress. And I don't want to have a stillborn or early delivery or anything like that because you want to know. Sorry, my health and my daughter's health is more important than you knowing whether or not it's like my daughter's his kid. Right.
Right. It can wait, what's a couple more months, and as the mom, that's your prerogative to make that decision for
Right,
yourself
exactly.
and your unborn
She was a
child.
little pushy about it. I mean,
I would
from my
say.
understanding, I know very little about her. I know she's Filipino, so like from what I've experienced with some Filipinos, that when they're mama bears, they are mama bears. So like I totally I get where she's coming from. And so then I was like, you know what? If you're gonna be that pushy, I'll talk to my OB and see what his professional opinion is on it. And she goes, good. That's what I want to know. And I said, okay, fine. And I just merely went to my checkup and was like, hey, so baby daddy's baby mama, it's a hot mess, man. But she wants an in vitro paternity test. And he goes, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you right now, I will not do that. I know one doctor that will do it, and I'm not going to send you to him because you're not doing it. And I said, this is why you're my OB, bro. Like, I'm really... like, you got my back. I appreciate it. So then I went back to him and said, he said he won't do it. So you're going to just have to wait till my baby comes because this is not a life or death situation. And my baby daddy was like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. I don't care. And then basically got a little toxic. And I told him just to not talk to me until after my daughter's born or unless it has something to do with our kid. I don't want to hear from him. And he switched jobs. He was a tow truck driver, then switched to a semi-truck driver, and he was driving across country. And the day I delivered, I think 3 hours after I delivered, he messaged me for the first time in a month and was like, how's it going? How's the baby? I know you're due soon. And I was like, ironically, I just had her 3 hours ago. And so he was like, oh, can I see? I understand if you don't want me to see. Anyways, then later on, he tells me that the day before I delivered, he was in Nashville. And I'm only 45 minutes from Nashville. And I'm like, you couldn't have told me that you were in my state? And I could have shown up and you could have possibly have been here for delivery. But instead, you just didn't want to talk to me until the next day. So I was really pissed about that. Of course, fresh mom hormones and all that. So then After
Right.
about a month or two after I had her, we took a trip to California, and I let him know, like, hey, your daughter's going to be literally 20 minutes from you. If you want to see her, let me know. And he gave me the runaround for about a month because we were out there for probably, I think, like 6 weeks or so. And then my mom chimed in, and he basically told me and my mom to F off, and that my daughter isn't important to him until she is, basically. And I was like, thanks for telling me that. That's says it all right there. And we're coming up on 2 years that we haven't heard from him, and it's phenomenal. I'm not gonna lie.
So as a single mom, how do you navigate all that? From like supporting your child to just finding time and space for yourself, and also finding the energy and consistency to be present for her. It's not an easy thing to juggle. I mean, I always joke I'm a part-time single mom because my husband travels so frequently,
Right.
but I have someone, you know, sometimes. I joke with him about it too, so he won't be offended if he hears that. So how do you manage, you know, playing all of those
honestly,
roles and being all of those things?
I'm 100% blessed. I have the unimaginable love and support from my family, and like they have helped me out tremendously. Like my mom just done like the most. Actually, I can't even say that. Like all of us, they've all done the most. And honestly, the grace of God, like I haven't had a like job since I had her. Like I've been able to, like, my car was paid off, so I didn't have a car payment. I was able to like minimize myself. And
so awesome.
I was also on the state for the first year and a half of her life. And that really helped because my groceries were paid. Like I didn't have to worry about food because, you know, it's the child support that I'm not getting, like in a way. So, because I'm not going after him for child support. I don't want to have anything to do with him. And in my like opinion as a mom is you can't put a price tag on my daughter. So like if I go after you for child support, there's no amount of money that's gonna be able to even like take care of her. Like not just physically take care of her, but like her emotional side of it, her spiritual side of it, that's all affected if I go after him, because then that turns into a fight and mom gets stressed out and then it gets relayed to baby and she doesn't need it. So no amount of money can even help with that. So I just choose to, you know what, bro, you don't want to be a part of her life? That's cool. You decide you want to be a part of it, we're going to have words, because like I don't mind that I'm raising her by myself. I love it because I don't have to go with like his beliefs and like what he believes like that needs to happen. No, like it's all on me. Oh, 100%.
There are perks. There are 100%. Perks.
And like the one
absolutely
thing that is like not so much a perk is it's just me, like disciplining. Like if I discipline her, she doesn't have her dad that she can run to, you know, quote unquote protect her or anything like that. Like I discipline her, she comes running to me and I protect her from myself. Like it's a tricky situation. And my mom actually warned me about that. She was like, hey,
totally.
You know, like, you don't have that. And so it's all on you. And I'm like, you know what? I didn't understand it until, I don't know, maybe a month ago when I spanked her little butt and then she started crying and then came up to me and was holding me. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it now, because she doesn't have the safe net to go to. I am the safe net.
Well, and then you just have to operate on a different level as a parent and be both those things and almost like give yourself a pause before like reacting, you know, like there's so many things that you have to do when you're by yourself all the time. And again, I'm only living that battle like half the time, and my husband's gone because he's working. So like I get to do this, right? So I totally can relate to that, though. It's definitely different, but at the same time, it's like I'm like 10 days in, I'm like, you better take a deep breath, Brianna, or this is not going to end well. So I understand it's tough. And then there's no one for him to go to but mommy. And mommy's the one who just lost her shit and yelled at him, you know? So now they feel
It's confusing.
they're both like,
They're like, you're my protector.
Yeah, totally
but
understand. Totally get that.
In a way, violated me. Like, it's exactly.
Or hurt their feelings.
Yeah. I try to do very minimal disciplining. Like, because of that, if I go in, I'm not really big on hitting. I don't like hitting. I don't like violence. I'm a very, like, I try to keep calm and everything and talk to her because it's easier.
So hard.
Like, how I'm communicating with her now will determine how she's going to be communicated with me in the future and with a relationship in the future. So, like, I set the bar for that.
Absolutely.
And that was actually one of my mom's advice. She's like, if you're teaching them how to communicate with you now. And so, like, I've seen parents screaming at their kids and the kids scream right back at them. And it's like, well, and then the parent gets all pissed off that the kid screamed at him. And it's like, well, that's how you talk to your kid, you know?
Right. How are they supposed to talk to you if that's the model that you're setting? 100%.
But
yeah,
to answer
absolutely.
My self-care that I get to do, there's one thing I did not give up, and I take a bath every single night. It never fails. I put her to sleep. I'm really strict on, like, bedtime. She's asleep by, like, 9 o'clock at night, and I take about a 10-minute bath, 10-minute bath, and then I go crawl into bed so I can decompose from the day, and it helps me sleep and relax and everything. So that's one trick that helps. I will say if you're
yeah, because you can kind of just melt the day away.
Exactly.
Whatever it was like.
You're frustrated. You had you're trying so hard not to cry, or you want to cry but you can't. Just like that bath takes it all out. Like it's phenomenal. And Epsom salt. Throw Epsom salt in there. You can't go wrong with it.
It's your release. Now, your daughter is biracial. She's half black, half white. So have you been met with any adversity as a single mom with a mixed child?
I do get looks. I definitely get looks. I have noticed that when I'm walking around with her, I get checked out a lot more by black guys than I do any other guy. And it's kind of a dead giveaway with having a mixed kid.
Well, there you go.
What
your preference is?
I want to say like the internal fear of and it's not like a fear because I don't want it to come off like I'm afraid of something, but just you never know when, especially like today's time and everything, people are in everybody else's business. No matter what. I mean, I read an article that a lady got arrested on Southwest Airlines because she was accused of kidnapping her own daughter who happened to be mixed. And her daughter was like 8 and 9 years old.
Oh,
yeah. Then she had to prove she was the mom. And it was a white woman, mixed daughter.
Oh my God.
This article, I'm like, that could be me. Like, someone could sit there and call the cops on me because I yelled at my daughter the wrong way. Or she screamed at me, so I popped her in the mouth because you're not going to scream at me in public. Like, privately, that's a different story. Like, if we're in our own house, cool. Like, I'm not going to, like, beat you to a pulp because I'm not that. I have a lot more control than that. But, like, in public, there's a respect, a give and take from both of us. Like, you want me to respect you in public, you're going to respect me and not scream at me. If you're going to scream at me, I'm going to pop you in the mouth and have some words with you type of thing. But, like, if I do that because my daughter is mixed, that could call for CPS at my door. Because the wrong person saw it and was like, she's abusing her child. And her child's black, so she could be racist or something like that. Or hate her child because I'm a stereotype, so baby daddy's not in the picture. Like, I hate my daughter because my baby daddy's not in the picture. No, I'm grateful my baby daddy's not in the picture. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I don't want him around. Anybody asks me, I don't want him there. I'm in full control. Like, I couldn't have a better situation. But, I mean, that's that's one of the fears or diversities that I have in like the back of my mind, is like I always have to be prepared for a situation like that type of thing. So I do have those.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting dynamic. Like, that's what I asked. I have a white kid and a white spouse, and my kid looks just like me. So I mean,
That's awesome.
It's different for different people. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain fears that like I have for my kid growing up that you're not going to have for your daughter, but you're going to have fears for your daughter growing up that I'm not going to have for my kid. And it's just something I think as moms we should share, like, I think you mentioned to me, like, your daughter was born during like the whole George Floyd thing, and, watching that kind of stuff happen as, a parent of a mixed child, I can only imagine like the things going through your brain, and just realizing that all of our situations are individual and unique, and just having a little bit of empathy for each other to be like, okay, well, how can I, as a bystander, make sure that, I'm looking out for your daughter in the same way I would want you to look out for you look out for your daughter,
right,
or I'd want you to look out for my son. You know what I mean? Like, it's a crazy world, and we can have a little bit more camaraderie, I feel like, than is out there in a lot of ways, I suppose.
Like, I always knew I was going to have a mixed kid. Like, I've been saying since I was 7 years old. Like, my dad's like, oh, blonde hair, blue eye grandbabies, that's what I want. And I'm looking at him like, you're not going to get that from me. And he goes, yes, I am. The white race is going under. And I'm like, I don't give a damn. Like, you have 3 other kids that can give you the blonde hair, blue eyed grandbabies that you want. Like,
wow.
I mean, my dad's
okay, Dad.
He's like old school on that level, and I was the super rebellious one that went against everything that they like don't do, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, don't tell me not to do something, I will do it. So I went out of my way and got me a baby.
I'm a big I went out of your way. But I'm also a big proponent, like, if you don't, it's like the Skittles phrase, it's like taste the rainbow. Like, if you don't try all the flavors, like, you don't have to sleep with everybody, but like, if you don't date a bunch of different people from a bunch of different like backgrounds, like, how do you know what you really like?
You gotta test the.
How do you know? I mean,
like,
right? That's my. I mean, you just gotta like try,
I don't know, Chevy, and be like, okay, I want the Silverado, but you really want the Colorado. Like,
you gotta know. I mean,
right,
so
exactly.
How do you know? That was always my mentality. Like, you gotta try it out.
That was another thing. Like, one other thing about it was California has a lot of different cultures. It has a massive variety of cultures. I would say probably where I'm from, in California, which is like Southern California, a little south in Los Angeles. I called it, this could probably sound really bad, but I called it Northern Mexico. California used to be Mexico, so there's a lot of Mexicans out there, which is totally fine. I grew up in a military town, which is also very diverse. So you have a bunch of different backgrounds, a bunch of guys from the South, guys from the East, guys from the North. And then you also have like best Mexican food is in California. I'm not going to lie. Oh yeah.
100%. But not in like the white neighborhoods. Not at all. Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go elsewhere, and there's some really good shit.
Right across the Union Station. It's top notch. It's the best taquitos you'll ever have. They're so good.
Oh man, the food trucks.
Right,
it's like the real food trucks. Like oh, so good.
There, you have the different cultures. So like it's weird because you would think you would see a lot more mixed kids out in California, which there are quite a few. But when I moved back to Tennessee, there was a lot more mixed and interracial relationships in Tennessee than there were in California.
Oh, interesting.
Like when I was dating guys in California, they were all black. I'm not even gonna front on that. It was a little bit of like unsurety between like the relationship because of the image we were giving off. I even had one of my exes say, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit uncomfortable because you're white, but I really like you. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, he was an honest guy. He's
honest.
Probably the best guy I dated, even with that statement.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, he was pretty
Sounds
cool.
like he's
I'm
pretty
still
legit.
friends with that relationship, but that's a different story. But like with that,
Different topic,
I
different
totally
day.
understood where he was coming from because of like the image of like California is really, really segregated still because they think that, you know, there's still a lot of segregation. I don't even want to get into all that because it's a lot. But out here, you're
There's a
welcome
lot.
no matter what.
But you're right.
They don't care what you look like. They don't care where you're from. They want you just to treat everybody how you want to be treated, with respect. So.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's how it should be anyway. So let me ask you this. Your own struggles with postpartum had prompted you to make some changes. Can you tell us a little bit about your fitness journey and like what prompted it?
I have always been an athlete. I was a catcher for softball for 15 years, so like chiseled for the most part. And
it's hard to sit like that.
Get used to it. Like I can't even do like I struggled doing like squats correctly because of how I was trained in softball. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm working on it. So when I first weighed in at my first checkup with my doctor, I was 127 pounds, and I was like, cool, like not a problem. I can work with that. And then when I weighed in to deliver, I was 200 pounds. And so, I mean, my doctor told me to ease off the cheesy bread. And I was like, bro, I can't. Like, I'm addicted to it. This is a problem. And
cheesy bread's so good.
I was limited to a lot of things. And he was like, okay, so you're 200 pounds. I'm like, okay, yeah, not a big deal. I'll push this baby out and I'll lose 60. Thinking, like, you know, my arrogant self was like, yeah, no, my body's going to take over.
Right.
No, that didn't happen. I was 200 pounds for the first year I had my daughter. I thought it was just going to melt off. I was told breastfeeding, like, you lose weight that way, which you do. Yeah. But I was still eating poorly. And I wasn't working out just yet. So with me, just the intake I was having, it wasn't taking away any of my weight. So then my mom was like, and I didn't think I looked terrible. I didn't think I was too big. You know, I was like, no, I'm still kind of curvy. And so I look pretty good. It's just, I had a bit of I looked like I was 6 months pregnant still, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And, right. And so
whatever.
Then, my mom was like, there's this personal trainer that I really want to work with. And I said, okay, fine. Like, I'll do it with you. F it, whatever. So we did it, and they were great. They're great. They're good for the clients that they have. For me and my experience, a little background, I've been studying the human body since I was like 16 years old. So like I'm, especially the muscular system, like I'm obsessed with it. So I know my body and I know the different muscles, and I know if I'm about to pull a certain muscle. And so I'm about to pull my hip flexor. And so I say to him, I'm like, just so you guys know, I can't be doing lunges because with all of these exercises you're having me do, and we're not warming up and we're not stretching, we're not cooling down, I'm about to pull my hip flexor in my left leg. And it was a husband and wife couple, and the husband looked at me like I was crazy, he actually not kind of 100% brushed it off and just went on to another topic. And right there I was like, you obviously don't know what a hip flexor is then. And which my extensive research and studying and everything into it, the hip flexor is what helps you walk. If you tear your hip flexor, throw it out, pull it, whatever you do to it, you cannot walk. So I'm over here like struggling, like, okay, I'm on the verge of not being able to walk. And you just brushed that off like it was nothing. And so I was like, not my personal trainer. Like, I shouldn't know more than them, first off. And second off, it was just like, and then on top of that, you're gonna brush me off. Like, no. So I just discontinued with them. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're inspiring me right now to this day. Like, they still inspire me because they're killing it. But like, from that, I was like, why can't I be a personal trainer? So that was one thing that crossed my mind, is I can, like, I know my own body. I know the muscular system. I know how to put my muscle on and take fat off. I know how to do all that. And then on top of that, we were walking through Walmart, my mom, myself, and my daughter. That I think it was like right before that happened. And there was a creepy guy just following us around. And so that triggered a fear in me as a mom of,
yeah.
My mom had my daughter, and I said to my mom, hey, this guy's been following us. Like, just keep an eye on Athena. Keep her close. And he was probably 6 inches from me at one point. And so I was, like, really uncomfortable. So, again, still about 200 pounds. I'm maybe 195 at this point. And it just triggered a fear. I'm big. And with me being big and out of shape, I can't tackle somebody who takes my daughter. I want to be able to keep up. Like, I'm vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I'm a single mom. So I don't even have the security of a man with me to say, hey, handle him type of thing. Like, I'm a target.
Yeah.
So then I was like, no, I can't do that. So then that's when it started to kick off of, no, I need to be fit for my daughter. Like, not for me, not for anybody else, for my daughter, because I need to keep her safe. I'm the only one she has. So January came around, and I started working with my mom, myself. I got enrolled into personal training school, and March comes around. I think in March I was like, brought it down to like 180, 170. So from like November to March, I brought it down almost about, no, it wasn't 170, it was about 180. So I brought it down about 20 pounds and got my certification in March.
That's good.
And now we're in September. I almost said August. We're in September, and I'm about 165.
Heard.
And in between.
Wow, that's awesome. That's healthy. Yeah, that's a healthy process, though.
There's no quick fixes with it. Like, and I would have been like, not a shoulda, coulda, woulda type of thing, but starting in November, I would have been if I stuck to it, and because I didn't stick to it the whole time. Like, I tailored off and didn't make it to the gym for like 2 months, and was doing a little bit of at-home workouts here and there, but it wasn't enough type of thing. You know, just life hits and get lazy the whole nine. Was eating Taco Bell again. And so, but if I stuck to it and I was strict and disciplined about it, I would probably be about 150 right now, and a little bit more. Right, a little bit more.
Still got to live a little bit.
Right. Like,
still got to live a little bit.
Nobody's perfect. Everyone tailors off at some point. So that's one thing that you have to mentally check in your mind of, it's okay to indulge sometimes. If you fall off, you have this, goal weight, like starting at 200, you want to be like 155, and you put yourself on a 6-month regimen to get it done. It's okay to taper off of that as long as you come back to it. You have to come back.
Yeah.
Like, you can taper off for 2 months or 3 months, but you come back. You're starting all over, but you're not starting completely over. That makes sense. Because you're not going to be back at that 200 pounds, because it's not going to come back on instantly. You're not pregnant. You know? I mean, unless you are pregnant, then good for you. Congratulations. But it's, as long as you come back to it, that's the thing, is like, discipline, come back to it. Because honestly, if you, like you said, you got to live a little bit. If you just focus and you're disciplined and you don't live your life, you're missing out on so much. Like, I was missing on some of my daughter's life because I was so focused on my fitness journey and keeping her safe, that I woke up one day and this little girl's making full-on conversations. She's 2 years old and walking and almost potty training. Like, that she went from crawling to full on conversations and talking back, and I'm like, who
Mm.
are you? When did you get so big, type of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
totally.
so yeah.
I totally get that. But I think you bring up a legitimate point, like, especially I'm with my kid a lot and I travel with him a lot by myself and, foreign countries and whatnot. And generally people are super helpful, knock on wood. But there's a lot of creeps out there too. So you have to be alert. You have to be smart. You have to be quick, not just of like mind, but of actions. And, I remember like a friend telling me, like, she was pregnant and she was on a train in Europe and somebody like tried to steal their suitcase. And this is just their suitcase. And she's like 7-8 months pregnant. And she like jumps over her husband and like chases the guy down, Right. And I was like, oh my God, wow, gets the luggage back. But it was like that maternal instinct like kicked in, like, what is happening?
Right.
And you just think if that's your child and you're not agile enough. You don't have to be like a freaking marathon or like, Iron Man
person. Just
right. You just need to be agile enough to protect your family. It is something I think. And my husband, I'll say something and he'll be like, well, why don't you just do this? And I was like, because I'm not a fit 45-year-old white male. Like, I'm not going to do that. Oh, and I'm not a male at all. So I don't feel comfortable in that parameter with our son. Sorry. He's like, oh yeah. And it's just because men don't have to think like that. Like generally men don't have to think like that. And yeah, so it's just, I'm just wanted to capitalize on that because I think it's a really good point.
Honestly, like you said, if you're not agile, your kid's gone. No matter, like, your mother instincts will kick in and your father instincts will kick in.
Right.
But how much more fit is the person taking your kid than you are? How quicker are they? Because they already have to jump in an exit plan.
Yeah, because
you're playing catch up.
They already got the plan. You're 100%. Yeah, exactly. And this kind of parlayed was like a huge reason that you started your fitness journey was to be like present for her. So, but you have this a really interesting theory that I want to get into that like trauma stays in the body. And how have your experiences with trauma influenced this theory that you have?
How much time do we have? Dive into all of that.
Well, you can go. Great, you answer it however you want to. It's up to you.
So I like to think. Well, I say that my parents should have named me Trauma. My middle name should have been Hillary Trauma Schreiber because that's basically my life story thus far. 29 years of it has been predominantly trauma. There's great things that have come out of it. So if we go back to my mom had delivered my older brother. He was 6 weeks early and he was born without lung tissue. And he was in the hospital for
crazy.
I don't know, 2 months or 3 months. And when my mom would get close, and this is in the middle of the Rodney King riots, I believe, in 1992 in LA. And so obviously that's a whole traumatic situation with my parents because they there was two options when he was born, either take him to Los Angeles or take him to San Diego. And my mom and dad fought tooth and nail to go to San Diego. So he ended up getting transported to San Diego by the grace of God, 100%, because there's more opening in Los Angeles, I believe, at that time. But they were really pushing to go south away from the riots and everything. So in the midst of that, my mom was, he was on breathing machine, tubes coming in and out and everything. And if she would get close to him, he would stop breathing. Wow. So she was like basically killing her son and watching him die if she got close to him. So what do parents who are going through this tough time do? They knock boots, right? Because that's what we would all do. So my mom and dad ended up within, when you deliver in postpartum, you're not supposed to have intercourse. It's 6 weeks postpartum because your hormones and everything are very active and you can get pregnant easy. So my parents
Mm.
completely ignored that. And by the time she went for her checkup after my brother was out of the hospital, she was pregnant with me. I was conceived through trauma. So that's just one start of it. Like, and then when my mom was 7 months pregnant with me, her appendix burst. They cut her open, took me out,
Oh
took
my
out her appendix, put
God.
me back in, and she went about 7 to 8 more weeks, and she was in labor the whole time. So then she finally delivered me,
Uh,
and then
fuck.
18 months later comes my younger brother. And he, so both my brothers are a key factor into like the trauma part of like my conception and everything. So after my younger brother was born, my mom's parents were deaf, so my mom's first language was sign language. And my mom,
Mm.
with her experience and everything, knew my brother was deaf. So she took him in to get tested, and he
Wow.
came. They're like, "I'm so sorry to tell you, but your son's deaf." And she's like, "Yeah, I know. Give my other 3 kids tested because I just want to make sure." So then I got tested, and I came back positive for being hard of hearing. And with that, it was just me and my
Mm.
younger brother, and we ended up in starting January 1995 to December 1995, there was 12 surgeries done between him and I. I had 5 done, he had 7, and now we have
Wow.
97% hearing, which is better than the average American hearing. But that does come with
Wow.
some trials that we had to face. Because we were born deaf, we have a speech impediment that we can't say the letter R. And so when I would have a conversation with someone, they would ask me over and over and over again, "What are you saying? I can't understand you. What are you saying?" So then at that point, I got tired.
Mm.
I got embarrassed. 100% I got embarrassed. And I got tired of repeating myself over and over. Like, people would
Mm.
ask me my name. They would literally ask me 10 times before I'm like, "My name's Megan." Like, just there's no, like, it's the cleanest name I can think of at that time. I mean, obviously my sister's name is Megan, so I took it from her, but like the cleanest name I can come up with that they can understand. So I was like, "My name's Megan." And they're like, "Oh, Megan, nice to meet you. I don't know why I couldn't get that before." And I'm like, "Because that's not what I was saying before at all." But so I went through basically my whole childhood and everything of not being able to communicate with the world. It was just basically me. I got
Mm.
sucked into music,
Yeah.
headphones in, didn't talk to anybody. I would listen to my music because that was my escape. It took me to a whole nother world where I didn't,
Yeah.
everyone understood me. I was, the queen of my own world. Like, I was able to talk to
Mm.
everyone. I had abundance amount of confidence. There was nothing wrong with me because that it just took me away. And so
Yeah.
with that, it just kind of like, took a toll on me. I didn't order my own food when we would go out to restaurants or anything. My parents would order for me. I don't like the attention. So one time we went to
Mm.
Carol's, I think it was, and they Golden Corral. I'm sorry, it was Golden Corral. And they're like, "We want to sing happy birthday to
Okay.
you."
I
And
know
I'm like,
that.
"No." My family would play pranks and tell them it was my birthday when it wasn't because I was so embarrassed because I didn't like that attention. I mean, now I'm like, yeah, give me all the attention in the world. Like, my confidence is out the roof. But at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, like, I had no confidence. So
Yeah.
they're like,
That's
they're like,
tough.
"Okay, so well, we have 3 versions for you. We have the regular version, we have the loud version, and then we have the short backwards version." And me thinking a short backwards version would be hilarious, it'd be great, and it'd be very quiet. And I'm like, "Okay, so short backwards version." The staff gets on their knees, turns around, faces everybody in the restaurant, and sings happy birthday to me, short and backwards, which caused a lot of attention. I almost cried. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So, so and with all that, I went through a very like short hair stage. Everyone thought I was a lesbian and into girls. I mean, I was 13. Baggy shorts, big old t-shirts.
No.
Right,
Who cares
like
if you
it
were?
doesn't matter. I'm like, no, I'm
Whatever.
not. But I got
Who
like
cares?
questions by the guys. Oh, do you think you're hot because you're not? And like I got stuff like that in middle school, and I was like, no, I don't think I'm hot at all. Just leave me alone. Like I don't want to talk to anybody. Like just leave me alone. And so then high school comes around. I'm starting to get more confident. Moved to Tennessee. Parents were going through a divorce, and
Never fun.
when I was my junior year of high school, so high school moved back and forth from Tennessee and California. My junior year was back in California, and I was in softball. And when I was in the softball study hall class, I was talking with these girls, and they were talking how they were talking about sex. And I was innocent in high school. I didn't say the word sex. I would spell it out. I didn't cuss, and it was just. So we're having this conversation. I'm like, no, I didn't date, didn't have any boyfriends in high school. And so they're just talking about all these things that they've done. And I was like, no, never done it. And so then it came into like memories started triggering in my mind. And I was like, but I think I was raped. And they were like, well, what happened? I was like, I would go to sleep at my grandparents' house. And I used to sleep in like big t-shirts. I would borrow my grandfather's t-shirt, my dad's t-shirt, my uncle's t-shirt. Didn't matter, like big t-shirts. And I was like, I'd go to sleep in the guest room, and then I'd wake up with my underwear down at my ankles and my grandfather behind me, like naked. So like, they're like, oh no, honey, you were raped. So then, 17 years old, I'm holding on to this for a little bit before I say anything, trying to process.
Yeah.
My mom and I are getting into a fight. I was, the fighter child. I like to bicker, I guess. Not anymore, but I did then. And she starts fighting with me, and I'm like, I've always been uncomfortable around older white men. And I never understood why. Doctors, it doesn't matter. Anybody with authority, uncomfortable. I never understood it. My mom never understood it. And then finally, like, it clicked. And my mom's like, well, your dad and your brother are on their way home, and then they can take you. I wanted to go to the chiropractor. And she's like, they can take you to the chiropractor. And I was like, no, I'm not going anywhere with them. And she was like, why? Did your dad do something? I said, no, but his father did. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, dad's dad raped me. Like, just as blunt as I could possibly be about it. And so that also kind of hindered me towards the, the black community and the black guys that I was always rebelling against my family about. And it was a huge rebellion against my grandfather because of what he did to me. Was like, no, leave me alone. And you want me to have white kids, I'm not going to do it because you showed me poor love. That's not love at all.
Yeah.
So then that was a whole thing that my mom and dad confronted him about it. And they were like, did you do it? And he goes, it only happened once and no damage was done. So like all of this, and I'm 17 at this point. So from conception through 17 has been like nothing but trauma. Like just back on top of each other. It starts off soft and then it just piles on and just gets deeper and deeper. And at this point, like I was super fit. When I was stressed out, when I was fight with my mom, any of that, I would go do 1,000 crunches before I go to bed because like I'm like when like 100 push-ups. I was so focused on like getting fit and everything that I wasn't gaining weight. Like I looked anorexic and I'm like, no, I'm eating. I'm doing everything. Yeah. Like I can send you a picture of me when I was 18. Like I was skin and bones, but I was fit, which is, kind of weird. And so then after that, like everything started to make sense. My senior year, I decided I want to be back in Tennessee. So I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with my best friend out here in Tennessee and was living with them for a little bit to get away from, like, I was running away from all my problems. And that's not good either because you have to face it to be able to move on from it. If you run from it, it just makes matters worse for, like, you. Nobody else around you, just you, because you're not dealing with it. So then my dad's whole side of the family basically said, "We don't believe you. Your mom planted that in your head because your parents are going through a divorce." And it's like, no. And in the middle of all of this, my dad's suicidal. So, I mean, that is just one after another. So then, and my dad obviously has some trauma that he wasn't dealing with by being suicidal, because that's a lot of like things that happen with like suicide and stuff is undealt with trauma. And so then my mom apparently thought I was going to kill myself my senior year of high school, so she moved us back to California. And then like I was in California from 2010 until 2019 was when I moved back here. And just as I was starting to research about it, like I got myself into a relationship, and he was a healthy relationship, but I cheated on him like the whole relationship because I was dealing with my own like trauma and demons and everything. And it wasn't anything against him. He was a great guy. It was all to punish myself, basically. I made myself sick to my stomach over it, and like slow down on dating. And then I dove into like music school so I can understand, like in that we took a psych class on the psychological of the human brain. I went to cosmetology, which goes over the human body and the hair and the follicles and how everything, genetics can affect it and everything like that. Started taking anatomy my junior year of high school. So then like I was really starting to get like in depth into anatomy. I took anatomy in college. And as things were starting to unfold, and then I got into a relationship when I was 26. Yeah, I was 26. And everything was fine. Said he was a man of God and Jesus Christ, everything. And I was like, heck yeah, like I'm about it. He then left. He's from Chicago, went home for about a week, and then came back. And when he came back, I was Satan. I was the devil. I was a demon. I'm never going to make it to heaven. And it's just like, just nonstop. And it was every day he got inches away from hitting me in the face and like basically almost beating me to a pulp. Him and I were living out of my car when he had somewhere to live and I had somewhere to live, but we chose to live out of the car, smoking overabundance amount of weed. He was drinking like it was going out of style, and it was just like really toxic. And we were both in the music industry at that point, and it wasn't pretty. So then that's when like I was praying. I was like, God, like tell me what I need to do because I'm not happy. This is not how a relationship should be. Like, I don't know what's wrong here, but something's not right. So I just kept praying and praying, and God's like, come to Tennessee. And so I'm like, I kept having dreams about Tennessee and everything. And I'm like, I don't know. So my mom had just moved out here, and I was like, hey, is it good? Like, how are you feeling? Are you happier? She goes, yes. So then that's when I went into my one night stand. And then after I had Athena, was when, and I wasn't shedding off any of my weight because I've always been fit. I started to realize trauma. My whole life has been trauma. I'm like, this is a whole long story to get to trauma. And how it can live in your body. So our brain is the capital of our body, is headquarters. I mean, if you've seen the movie Inside Out, it's a great analogy of the brain.
It's a great movie.
Phenomenal. But like we have okay, so you have your core memories, right? Let's go inside out. Let's break it down from the inside out. So you have your core memories, and then sadness comes in, and sadness starts affecting core memories, right? So then I can't remember, Riley's the girl's name. Riley starts changing and everything just because of these memories. So, and Inside Out shows you that you have all of these memories and they're locked away somewhere in your brain, but you have your core memories that mold you into who you are today. So no matter what you see, what you physically go through, emotionally, spiritually, it's all in your brain. And if you don't face it, it will hold on into your body, and your brain will tell your body, I don't know what to do with that. Just put it somewhere. And your body's like, I have nowhere for this to go. Okay, boom, fat. Here we go. Oh, your muscle, yeah, you think you're going to be strong, you're working out, so you're not fat. Here, I'm going to put this trauma right here in this muscle. And then you work out that muscle and you pull it. And you're like, I don't understand. I'm super fit. I go to the gym every day. I shouldn't be pulling my muscle. I stretch. I eat healthy. I do everything to take care of my body. But you'd have that trauma that pulled that muscle from, I don't say, softball player. Me. I have a little bit of a trigger point, almost pulling the trap in my shoulder. Find out I have rotator cuff issues. So that like trauma has been stuck in my body and it's resurfacing 10 years, 12 years later. So it's like, it doesn't go away, but it's how you deal with it. Can, like, you just got to reface it, unfortunately, but you will have so much growth out of it physically, mentally, and spiritually. Like, and you get in tune with yourself when you face your trauma, because your trauma isn't anybody else's but yours. And when you face your trauma, you're facing yourself and facing a dark part of you, and you can bring light to it. And with that, your body will trigger some chemical reactions and say, cool, now that we dealt with that trauma, we can go ahead and take that fat and turn it into muscle. And now you're stronger because of it. So it's like all about your brain and how it's all connected, because your body is connected head to toe. Your hair is dead cells from the inside of your body. It's literally, this is the inside of your body out of you. Yeah, fun fact. Nails, same thing. And it's just like, if people understood and is willing to face the darkness, you can shine light in your darkness, and that will help you internally, help you around others, help you be a better mom, a better dad. I mean, honestly, childbirth, as traumatic as it is, dads, it's traumatic for them. They're watching, this is going to sound so inappropriate, but like when a mom pushes a baby out, the dad's watching that, and that dad, this is me if I was a dad, I'd be like, that's my home. Like, that was my home before this baby's pushing his head out of it. Like, that was a teeny tiny little hole that I could fit into. Now a whole baby's coming out of it. Like, to me, that would be traumatic. I'd be like, I don't know if I want to go back in there. You know what I mean? Like,
I think a lot of men struggle with that, right, and so do some women.
Right, like men.
That's a good point.
And then dad, freshman 15, dads get that after watching childbirth. They'll, like, that's correlated, and they don't tell you it's correlated because, no, you're just eating because your wife's eating or because the baby's eating. No, dude, that you saw something traumatic. Yes, childbirth is beautiful, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to watch it. I don't want that visual.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, I recorded myself giving birth because it's so beautiful. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, I don't, like, good for you. That's a lot. Like, you're in tune with your body on another level than I am. But, like, and people don't take into consideration the dad goes through the trauma of the childbirth as much as the mom and the baby.
Yeah. Witnessing, yeah.
Emotional.
Like, mom has physical, dad has observational.
Yeah, so that's just one thing. And then if the dad, correlates, oh, that's trauma, he'll start melting off his dad bod and getting a six-pack back, Well,
I think it brings up a couple good points, and like, thank you for sharing all the different levels of yours. I think I think you bring up a couple of things that, from my perspective, it's like, like you were saying, running from your problems, and you definitely have to face them on, but sometimes you need space to process them and work through that grief yourself, and like really figure it out. And it's not surprising that if you were young with like your grandfather and like being raped, like you would push that under. It's a man you're supposed to be able to trust, right. And, holding on to that for all the years, and then like controlling what you could control. Like, it's not being anorexic or bulimic, but it's like, it's exorophobia. Yeah. I forget what it's called, but it's like the exercise version of like anorexia. So like you just work out all the time, and it all comes back to like what you're saying. It's like the trauma. And as a teenager, you can't process you're not processing, or you don't even realize what has happened until you're years later. But you're holding on to this thing that's uncomfortable in your brain, and all these other uncomfortable things in your brain that, made you feel alienated and,
Right.
I don't know, like unworthy or inadequate or whatever you were feeling, like,
not pretty and not
insecure and all these things. And then it's no wonder that you were trying to control the one thing you could control, which was your physical appearance, because everything else was out of your control. Speech impediments, hearing problems, perverted older men, like all of that was out of your control. So you needed to, and I relate to that, because I was the same way. Like my mom was very abusive, and our home was, it was like functional dysfunction, if you will. And it was just like, it wasn't really normal, but it, like, in retrospect, the way we grew up wasn't really normal, but it was the only normal that we knew. And I did the same thing. I would eat like one meal a day, and then I would just work out. And it was what I could do to keep order of the chaos, and then but it's not until you face all, like you're saying, you're facing all those things and getting you to a place where you can really lean in to all those dark spots and like work through them, and know that those actions from other people, or those kids who are mean, or the perverted old man who took advantage of you, like that says more about them than it does about you. But it takes you a while to get there.
It's nothing that I did. And
totally,
I'm innocent in the fact,
exactly.
But like it's a part of me. Whether I choose, like any woman, men can be raped too. Just throw that out there. They say they can't, but they can. They not to get all inappropriate and weird and everything, but they have a hole that can be entered too. Like and it is true. It is true. Because, okay, with that said, I'll get into a little bit more. I wasn't raped vaginally. I was raped anally. So, like, when I say that they can be too, it's because, like, I was in that way. But and this is where it comes to the whole, it's okay to forgive yourself. Like, it's okay. You don't have to forgive the person who did it to you. You have to forgive yourself, because it's not your fault. And once you understand that it's not your fault, through all the trauma, rape, abuse, getting just yelled at, or watching a kid, heaven forbid, but watching a kid walk into the street and get like taken out by a bicycle or like a car, but is totally fine, not, like able, just getting up and walking, like no problem. But that's out of your control, and you have to accept yourself and say, it's okay that I saw that. It's okay that it happened, because things happen, and that kid is okay, and I'm gonna be okay. Like, it's just the mental realization and self-assurance of, it's not my fault, and I'm gonna be stronger out of this, because we all go through trauma. We all go through dark tunnels. There's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah. Even when we die, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. That's the one thing that we can't stop, is death. So, like, just
it's true.
Do you want to live your life trauma, like full of trauma? Woe is me, the victim, and overweight, and I can't lose my weight, and no. Or do you want to live your life with happiness, joy, and acceptance from yourself, and take the trauma and use it to your advantage and make the world a better place because of it? Those are the two ways you can, live life with trauma. And I don't care what anybody says. You're born into trauma, because giving birth is traumatic for a mom, a daughter, for a mom, a baby, and a husband or a spouse, baby daddy, or whoever is there. That is 100% traumatic. I mean, even for the OBs, dude, they chose that job, but that's traumatic but it's also beautiful. There's beauty in the pain, is basically what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, 100%. Isn't that where isn't that where the growth is?
Like you grow bigger and stronger and better out of the trauma. It may take people 10 years to grow out of it. It may take people a month. It just depends on how you handle it. But the better you are at handling it, the sooner you are at handling it, the better you are, like, health-wise, all around, head to toe. And I guarantee people who are overweight, especially moms who are overweight, and they don't face their trauma, they will hold on to that, and it shows. Your body shows everything. So get ahead of that trauma. You want to be hot again. You want to be beautiful again. You want to feel sexy again. Face your trauma. You will be so beautiful that you wouldn't even imagine. Just like in general.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get it is true. Like, if you think about it, like, all the stressors in life, and like they say, stress causes like weight gain. It's, you know, stress, trauma, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's all something that's impacting your mental, physical, emotional well-being. And, you know, your hormones are then impacted by that, and your hormones can, like, so it translates 100%. Like,
oh yeah,
it makes sense. Call it stress, call it trauma, call it whatever.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, essentially, at the end of the day.
Getting your house foreclosed on you, or bankruptcy, like, that's traumatic, and you have to bounce back from that. Like, it's not all physical. A lot of it is mental too. And people they just fear. They don't want to face it because they're scared of going through that. And it's like, honestly, best way to go through it, in my professional opinion, meditate. If you can meditate, you can tell your body to let go of the trauma, and you don't have to reface it, or you can reface it, but you meditate, breathe, and tell your body to let go of it, and it will melt off.
Oh, man. All right. Well, I'm the mom who knows nada. My name is Brianna. This has been our podcast with Hillary on her smashing through havoc, because it's been a lot of things to break through, I feel like. So, Hillary, thank you so much for sharing your time and your story with us. I really think that you touched on a few things that could help some other women. Well, a lot of different things that are relatable and that women are struggling with, and sometimes you don't want to talk about. So I think it's so important that we highlight some of those uncomfortable situations that happen in life or that people take advantage of. And so thank you for bringing that to us today. So until next time, everybody, have fun learning all the things you didn't know you needed to know.